Before he became boss of the Gambino Crime Family, John Gotti was the acting captain of a crew based out of the Bergin Hunt and Fish Social Club in Ozone Park. Let's check out a few photos of members and associates of that crew. Welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Today, we're going to take a quick look at a selection of photos of members of John Gotti's Queens-based crew. Let's start with a picture of John Gotti and Carmine Fatico. The crew that John Gotti belonged to was based out of the Bergin Hunt and Fish Social Club in Ozone Park. The long-time official captain of the crew was Carmine Fatico. Fatico would have legal problems in the late 1970s and was for a time confined to house arrest. During this period, John Gotti served as the acting captain of the crew. Gotti was never actually the official captain of the crew. He only ever served as acting captain, right up until he was involved in the plot to have family boss Paul Castellano murdered, after which Gotti became boss. Anyway, in around 1979 and 1980, whilst John Gotti was serving as acting captain of what was known as the Bergin crew, the made men of the Gambino Crime Family who were in this crew consisted of the likes of Danny Fatico, brother of official captain Carmine Fatico, Anthony Fat Andy Ruggiano, a powerful and respected soldier with a very large crew of associates. He was inducted into the crime family back in 1953 when Albert Anastasia was boss. Angelo Ruggiero, a longtime friend of John Gotti who was inducted into the Gambino Crime Family in 1977. Gene Gotti, John Gotti's younger brother, who was inducted at the age of 30 into the Gambino Crime Family in either late 1976 or early 1977. Gene Gotti actually became a made man before his older brother Johnny Boy. Nick Corozzo. Nicholas Corozzo was inducted into the Gambino Crime Family in 1977 at the age of 37. In the early 1980s, he would transfer to the crew of Mike Chiazza, which was the crew that had, until the mid-1960s, been run by Neil Dellacroce. John Carneglia. Johnny Koenig was inducted into the Gambino Crime Family in the late 1970s, at the age of 35. Sources indicate that he would be the man who put the fatal shots into family boss Paul Castellano in 1985. Lenny DiMaria. DiMaria was a popular mobster who was inducted into the Gambino family in 1977 at the age of 36. Much like Nicholas Corozzo, he would transfer to Mike Chiazza's crew in the early 1980s. Other made men in the Bergin crew included Michael Guerrieri and his brother Anthony Tony Lee Guerrieri, and of course Carmine Fatico, who was the official captain, and John Gotti, who was the acting captain. This crew of course had numerous associates who were affiliated with it, and many appear in the following photos. Here is a famous photo of John Gotti in an LA Raiders jacket. Walking with Gotti was Bergin crew member Anthony Tony Lee Guerrieri. Guerrieri was a longtime soldier in the Gambino family. He would go on trial with John Gotti in 1990 on assault charges regarding the shooting of Union boss John O'Connor in 1986. In February 1990, both Gotti and Tony Lee were acquitted of their charges. Next up is a photo of a young-looking Angelo Ruggiero, in the middle wearing sunglasses. Ruggiero would eventually become a captain in around 1986. However, he fell out of favour with his old friend John Gotti and was shelved a few years later. He would die of cancer in 1989. In this photo taken outside the famous Bergin Hunt and Fish Social Club, we have longtime John Gotti associate Willie Boy Johnson, wearing a yellow t-shirt to the right hand side of the photo. As most of you are aware, Willie Boy, who was a tough individual, was also a long-time government informant. His role as an informant came out at a trial that he was involved in with John Gotti. And then, in 1988, Willie Boy Johnson was gunned down. The shooters of Willie Boy Johnson were supposedly Thomas Tommy Karate Patera and Vincent Kojak Giattino, mobsters affiliated with the Banana Crime Family. Tommy Patera was actually acquitted of the murder, but Kojak Giattino was sentenced for Johnson's killing. Second from the left in this photo is potentially Gambino soldier and Bergin crew member Danny Fatico. Sticking with Danny Fatico, here he is again dressed in brown and cream towards the left hand side of this photo. In the middle, dressed in black, is a young Angelo Ruggiero. In this next photo, taken in the 1970s, we see John Gotti sat in the middle, and next to him on the right is Willie Boy Johnson. Directly behind John Gotti is his younger brother Gene. Gene would later serve the best part of 3 decades in prison for narcotics trafficking. On the far right of the photo, behind Willie Boy Johnson, is Salvatore Ruggiero. Sal Ruggiero was the brother of Angelo Ruggiero. Sal Ruggiero was a major heroin trafficker who was the main drug contact for the Bergin crew. Sal Ruggiero was a multi-millionaire and would remain as a mob associate. In the late 1970s, Sal Ruggiero was targeted by law enforcement and would go on the run. Despite being on the lam, he would still run his drug trafficking operation, which also included his brother Angelo, Gene Gotti, and John Carneglia. Sal Ruggiero would die in a plane crash in 1982. On the left hand side of this photo, we have Bergin crew soldier Angelo Ruggiero, and on the right, John Gotti associate Anthony Tony Roach Rampino. Tony Roach battled with heroin addiction for years, but was also allegedly one of the primary backup shooters in the hit on family boss Paul Castellano in December 1985. Here we have another photo of Anthony Rampino coming out of the Bergin Hunt and Fish Social Club. Tony Roach would die behind bars in December 2010. In this superb 1971 photo of mobsters connected with the Carmine Fatico Bergin crew, we have Gene Gotti sat on the car roof in an orange shirt. Behind Gene was an associate by the name of Skinny Lou. Next to Gene Gotti is Joey Scopo. Joey Scopo was actually connected with the Colombo crime family and would go on to become a made man in that family. However, he was always close to the Bergin crew guys. Behind Joey Scopo is Ronald Foxy Jerothe, a mob associate who was close with John Gotti. Foxy was later murdered by Lucchese family associate Tommy DeSimone. Next to Joey Scopo on the car roof is Sal Ruggiero, and in front of Sal Ruggiero on the left hand side is a mobster by the name of Willie Chiselchin. In this next photo we have longtime Bergin crew member and Gambino family soldier Daniel Danny Wagons Fatico, brother of crew captain Carmine. Next to him is Joseph Scopo. As mentioned, Joey Scopo was associated with the Colombo crime family. He was inducted into the Colombo family in February 1981 at the age of 34. Joey Scopo would later be murdered towards the end of the Third Colombo War in 1993. And finally, on the right hand side of this photo, we have Willie Chiselchin. On the left of this photo, taken outside the Bergin Hunt and Fish Social Club, is Ignazio Iggy Logna. And on the right in the doorway is Gene Gotti. Iggy would later become a captain in the Gambino crime family, based out of Florida. In this next photo outside the Bergin Hunt and Fish Club, we have John Gotti's brother Peter Gotti on the right, and on the left is Ronald Ronnie One-Arm Trucchio. Sources indicate that Peter Gotti would be inducted into the Gambino crime family in the late 1980s, and he would eventually become boss of the family. Ronnie One-Arm Trucchio would be inducted into the Gambino crime family in 1988. He was also allegedly one of the gunmen who killed the modern-day Bonnie and Clyde couple Thomas and Rosemary Hoover, who had been robbing mob social clubs. Trucchio would eventually become a captain in the Gambino crime family. Since around 2007, he's been serving life in prison. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting and enjoyed some of the photos. Thanks for watching.